The windmill is an awesome exercise for improving both mobility and strength. Some people think it can be challenging to learn, but if you break it down properly, anyone can do it. Hi, I'm Ryan Jankowitz, the owner of RJ Kettlebell, and I use my online kettlebell programs to help men and women get into great shape, lose their spare tire, and build lean muscle so they can fit better in their clothes and look better naked. So let's break the windmill down into lower body and upper body. So let's assume I have a kettlebell in my right hand here. The kettlebell is in my right hand. My feet are going to pivot about 45 degrees to my left. My feet are still parallel to each other, but one foot is slightly ahead of the other. My left foot is a little bit ahead of my right foot. Because the kettlebell will be in my right arm, I want most of the weight in my right hip, which is right underneath the kettlebell. So as I go into my windmill position, as I hip hinge, I'm going to keep about 70 to 80% of the weight in my right leg here, which is right underneath the kettlebell. And the left leg is going to be very light. With the right leg, I want to keep my knee locked out by flexing my quad. And I'm going to keep my left knee bent or slightly soft. So I hip hinge, so I push the butt back, keeping most of the weight in my right leg. The right quad is flexed and tight, and the left knee is soft. You don't have to go down very far. It's not a requirement to go all the way to the floor and touch your hand. Go to where your flexibility allows you to go. You should get a good stretch through this right hamstring, maybe in the right glute, maybe even in the right calf if you are tight in those muscle groups. So it's just a hip hinge with the feet at a 45-degree angle and 70-80% of the weight in the right hip. Now at the upper body, there's a rotation happening at the chest and upper back. So as my hips hinge back, I'm rotating my chest to open up, and I'm just looking at the kettlebell at the corner of my eye. What I don't want to happen is lateral flexion, which means I bend at the waist, like my spine curves. I still want to keep my spine straight even though I am rotating. So as I go down, hinge at the hips, rotate, open up the chest. And if this is as far as you can go, that's fine. Don't sacrifice your spine in order to touch the ground. This isn't yoga. We're not trying to go into triangle pose. So what I'd like to think about is doing an oblique crunch on my right side here. Bring my right rib cage down to the right hip, crunch this side here as I do the windmill. Keep the core nice and tight. In order to come back up, I'm going to start to really flex the right glute here and exhale. So let me show you what it looks like with a kettlebell. The kettlebell is in the right arm. I will pivot my feet to the left about 45 degrees. Again, most of the weight is in my right hip here. Hinge my hips back, rotate the chest, open up. Squeeze the glute as I come up. One more. All right, so I would recommend practicing without a kettlebell first. Make sure the movement feels fluid. And then once you get comfortable without a kettlebell, then you can add a light kettlebell and work up from there. If you have any more questions about your kettlebell training, please send me a message. Stay strong.